Hi everyone, I've actually already filmed a bit of this, but I didn't write a plan and I was just waffling on, and I just want this to be a really good video that you guys can just be like, yeah. And at the start I knew I should have wrote a plan and I didn't, so now I have quickly wrote a plan. I'm not going to show you it all. Just so I can stay on topic and get everything out that I want to get out without waffling. So this video was inspired by me and my two best friends going out for dinner and having a really amazing, in-depth, like, deep chat about life. And so I'm going to be 28 2 weeks today. Both of them are now already 28. One was in June, one was in March. And we were just talking about that nearly 30 thing, and it's so big for everyone, and everyone say like, by 30 I should have, by 30 I want to, by 30, and you hear it all the time, like, by 30 you should have. And it's just so toxic to have a timeline on life and achievements, and when you should be proud of them and when they're no longer something to be proud of, and all this and that. And the main theme in this conversation that us guys are gonna have is, one, that the timeline's so toxic, and two, stop caring what other people think. Seriously, in every aspect of life, stop caring what other people think. So let's go into career is the first one I've listed. I'm going to go down the list and just make points for each thing. So a lot of people say by 30 I should be making this amount of income, or in a job I love, or I don't know, working for myself, or my business has took off, and so many things. And for example, for me, I am a part-time beauty specialist at Boots. Obviously I'm on maternity, and I'm also officially an entrepreneur. I have my own business in like nails, brows, etc. And I sometimes would look at people like my sister, who's a nurse in a professional job. It is a professional job, but I'm saying, like, because I look at that like all professional, I look at that and say, oh, but you've got like a job that people look at and they're really like, oh wow, you know, just something about having that professional job is like, oh, you've done really well for yourself. Whereas she will look at me and say, I wish I had a more glamorous, not that she doesn't love being a nurse, but there are times where jobs like that get really stressful, and you know, she's also got kids and like me, and she would love to be a bit more able to be a bit more flexible with her hours. Like, obviously me working part-time, I literally tell employers I can work in between school hours Monday to Friday. I physically can't do later, and I can work the weekends, so that's when I fit in my work. And obviously more professional jobs you can't really do that, so she'll look at me and, you know, envy that aspect, or just say it's more glamorous and it's you know, she's out here like saving lives and stressed, and you know, but I'll look at her and be like, oh, but you got a professional job and you do something amazing. And that's just examples of, like, you can look at other people and what they're doing and think the grass looks greener, but they could be looking at you and thinking the exact same thing. A good point I want to get at is, just because you're nearly 30 doesn't mean you have to settle in a job. I think a lot of people, where they're on a decent wage and they might have a mortgage by now, or you know, they have the bills, car payments, house bills, all of that, or they're just they just get in the mindset of, I'm in a good place, so not mentally probably at work if they don't like it, but I'm in a stable place, so I don't want to move and completely change direction. I'm too old to start a new career. I could never be someone who started a business. What if people didn't support me? Blah blah blah. And that's just crazy. Like, at nearly 30, you're still so young. Like, are you really gonna do a job you don't like for 40 more years just because you were stable? Like, life's too short for that, and it's never too late to start in a new career. And yes, you have to be a beginner again, and yes, you know, I think we feel so embarrassed being a beginner because we're not perfect straight away, but who cares? Like, who cares? You care way more how you look than anyone else does. Like, we feel like the world's like staring at us like, oh my god, look at her, she's a new girl and she can't do this, that and the other, she's got no clue. They're not thinking that. Like, they don't care. They're worrying about themselves and how people are looking at them, to be honest. Like, it's really not something that we should be afraid of, going into a new career path and starting something new. And even, for example, I know people that would love to do what I'm doing now, YouTube. Not that I'm a massive YouTuber, touch wood, come in. But they would love to do something like this, and they would just never do it because what would people think, and I'm not that person, and all of these such self-limiting thoughts. And I just think, again, life is so short. Like, are you really not going to go after doing something you'd really enjoy doing because you're worried what other people think that you don't speak to and that aren't a part of your life? Like, who cares what other people in your year from school, for example, like, oh, they'll all see me do this. You don't talk to them. Why do you care what they think? They're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. Like, people get so caught up in what everyone's going to think of them. The only people that matter what they think is yourself, basically. But even like your close people, but even to a degree, if they don't understand it, that's fine. But you've got to be happy in yourself. Working, unfortunately, for many of us, unless you were born into a very, very rich family, working is going to be a major part of our lives. Like, we're going to do it most days. So don't settle in something you hate and makes you depressed just because it's stable. Do you know what I mean? Like, stable, so I'm just going to feel like this, wishing for Friday every week of my life for the next 40 years. Like, what a way to live. What a way to live. And also, on another point about this is, if you have a job you love, like me, I love doing what I do. I love doing the nails, I love like working with makeup, I love all of that. And sometimes I think people look at me and they're like, oh, that's like a dumb girl's job. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, this stereotype. And I'm like, I feel like I have to say to people like, oh no, I actually got really good grades, like I'm actually like smart. And I think, Charlotte, why do you care? Why do you care? Like, as long as you're doing something you love, it doesn't matter if your salary isn't high up there, or it's not a job people look at as credited or professional or something to aspire to be. As long as you're happy, it really doesn't matter. You're the one who's going to be doing that job. So it's not to please other people. They don't have to do the job. You have to do the job. So just, yeah, I think with career, it really doesn't matter about wage. It doesn't matter what other people think about it. all that matters is that you're in a place where you're really happy to be working, because unfortunately we have to work to live, and you should just do something you love. And whether that is starting a business or heading into something completely different, don't be afraid to be a beginner. Don't be afraid to build something yourself. Try not to get too caught up in, oh, what if I don't get supported, and what if it's embarrassing, people are laughing at me, or this and that. It will come in time, and I'm not saying these things come easy. I'm not saying starting again is completely easy, or starting a business definitely isn't easy, and building up a clientele or getting your customers in and things like that, but it's just so worth it. I just think, especially over Corona, we've literally been locked in a house like a year and a half. People who have had mental health, like myself, have also spent other years in the house. Like, I feel like I've lost probably 4 years of my life, like being stuck in a house, either to Corona or mental health. And why waste it anymore? Like, why waste life anymore just because you've got a number, literally for a number, like your age, like you got a number so you can't do that, or you're embarrassed what people think so you can't do that. I think the luxury of growing older is that you care less and less and less what people think. However, I do feel that I'm, and always have been to a certain degree, less inclined to care what people think than other people. I see a lot of people still quite controlled by it. Even if they wanted to do a silly thing like a hobby, like do a podcast or something, they're just like, I can't do that. And no, like, it's just not that. I just feel embarrassed, and I'm like, do the podcast, like, just do it. Just do it. Just make yourself happy. Who cares if anyone listens or does it? Like, you're doing something you love, and that's all that matters. So yeah, that is my rant on careers. Next, I'm going to talk about housing. So everyone feels like they should have a mortgage by 30. I'm not going to lie, I fall into that category, so I'm talking to myself right now as well as you guys. But let's talk about my situation. For example, this is a talk we were having when we were having the meal. I said I feel embarrassed to say that I am still at my mum's house a lot of the time. So I did move out. I moved back in when my dad got poorly. And I've just stayed here with the kids ever since. Obviously we lost my dad, and I stayed here to like be with my mum, and also like for myself, like living alone is fudging. Sorry, I'm not gonna swear. Fudging lonely, and it can really deteriorate your mental health. And yeah, I was saying that to them, and they were like, that's crazy, because you and your mum get along so well. You're not in a situation where you're desperate to leave because it's a toxic environment, or you just don't get along. She's literally your built-in childcare. Like, you can go to work because you live with your mum, and why would you essentially waste money by renting, or, you know, if I had enough for a deposit, let's say a mortgage, when you're comfortable and everything's fine how it is, and you can just keep saving? And that, like, it just made me feel so much better. I thought, you're right, like, it wouldn't actually make sense for me to just move out. Like, obviously I do dream of my own house. That is a massive thing. I want my own house, and just to be able to decorate it how I want. But I shouldn't rush to that. Like, it'll be lovely when it happens, but for now, like, especially the idea of renting or anything, why would I do that? Why would I waste like £700 a month, which is how much it'd be for a 3-bed with me and my 2 boys, approximately. That's most of my monthly earnings. Like, why would I do that just so when I talk to people I can say, oh, I've got my own place? Charlotte. Like, it is amazing. It's an amazing achievement to have your own place, especially shout out to those of you guys who have got mortgages. But if you haven't, you might be like me, you might have had a kid at 19 and you haven't had any spare money since 19. Or you might have had injuries or health problems, or there's so many reasons why you might not be moved out, or started a business and all your money's gone into that. And so, and all of these there's so many factors that can come into it, and just the fact that you haven't yet got a mortgage makes you feel like some sort of failure because you're nearing the 30 mark is crazy. Our parents bought a house. I know for a fact this house I'm living in right now, which is decent size, 3-bed house, massive back garden and everything. I know this house was 42,000 when my parents bought it. Imagine being able to buy a house for 42,000 now. Like, it's not, you can't you would never get this for that now. So I think it's really important to just remind yourself of that stuff. And yes, our parents used to do things a lot younger because it was easier then. So much easier. And I think it's great people aren't, less people are renting because they just see it as dead money. That might be something that you might really want to move out, and you know, you might have a toxic home environment, or it's just the right thing for you, but you can't quite afford the deposit for a mortgage. That's great. Like, this is what I'm saying, everyone do what's best for you, but don't feel pressured or like a failure because you're not in some sort of housing situation, or you haven't yet invested in properties and you've got some that you're renting out, because you see other people doing that online. Like, that is amazing for them, and genuinely, if you've done it, that is an amazing accomplishment. But I guarantee them people will look at one aspect of your life and be envious. So basically what I'm saying to you guys is, like, in my situation, if you're happy at home and it's a non-toxic environment, don't rush out to rent just because you feel like you should be at the house. Save all that money to get a house that's yours for a mortgage. Like, if you are willing to rent, but your home life is fine, literally put away that £600 a month. Like, pretend that you're paying a rent, like, pay it to your savings and pretend that's your rent that you're paying. And yeah, don't ruin your finances or what you could have just because you're trying to keep up with everyone, because you'll get there. You'll get your house. It doesn't have, I promise you, it doesn't have to be before 30. Everyone will still think it's amazing. You'll feel just as good when you're 32 or 35 or whenever it is, actually saying this is my house, than if you did 26. That feeling is not going to change just because there's a different number on your age, and it's not any less of an achievement. Like I said, people have so many different life paths, and there's a reason why you might have had to do it later, or there's a reason someone wanted to do it earlier or could do it earlier. So again, just not comparing and not caring. That is going to be my slogan for this. That is literally going to be my slogan for the video. Stop comparing, stop caring. So next is love. Oh my god, and I feel like I am mainly talking to the women, let's be honest, because it is definitely women who feel that we should be in a relationship or be married, or our clock's running out. Men don't really feel that. First of all, let's just acknowledge that you've been programmed since a baby, practically, to strive for a man to come and sweep you away and marry you and give you a happily ever after. Just take a minute to process that. Thank you, Disney and films and everything else that's done that. And that somehow if you don't have that by that age, you failed. Right, let's start with the fact women can now do so much more than they used to do. So a lot of you guys may be a lot more career driven. Women have a lot more rights and self-respect and self-love. So in general, we're a lot less likely to put up with a relationship that's not for us just because there's a man there. Like, I think, I don't know, I don't want to come across things, but I think back in the day, you know, the man was a man, he was allowed to do what he wanted and you were just supposed to be the trophy woman. And I think as the generations have come, we, thank God, know that we're fine by ourselves. Like, if you can't treat me right, I'm good on my own. And I think it's so important for women to really discover self-love and just enjoying life by yourself. I have been on a journey of like self-love. It sounds so cringy, but you know, really through therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy and mindfulness and all of that, it was just so crucial for me to go on this journey of really learning to love myself. And thank God I did, because now as soon as you cannot come to me in a way that is how a partner, I would expect a partner to, you'll be cut off and you won't return. Like, again, worry what people think. I don't. I used to, and I don't. I'm a single mum of 2. Obviously my kids don't see their dads. Not gonna get into it. But I would really worry how that would look before, like, oh my god, I've got 2 kids and I'm not with any of the dads and blah blah. If someone is an awful person or someone has done you wrong and you had the respect for yourself to walk away and not allow that to be a part of your life or your kids' lives, or they're like disrespectful to your kids, you know what I mean? I don't mean like kick them away when they want to be a dad. Like, that's definitely not what I'm saying. If someone wants to be a dad, let them be a dad. If they don't want to be a dad, or they're, you know, they can't treat you in a way that you deserve to be treated, my camera cut me off. Yeah, or if they're a narcissist or mentally abusive or compulsive liars or physically abusive or anything like that, if you walked away from a man like that, you didn't lose. Like, I am so glad. I would much rather be who I am, this single mom of 2 boys, than to be in a relationship with someone who is a bad person just because I want to stay with them, because I don't want to look bad by then having a 3rd child with a 3rd person. Do you know what I mean? Like, thank God I'm that girl, because I think a lot of girls stay in situations because they're scared of that. But to me, you look a lot better if you have the self-respect to walk away than if you stay with someone because you're scared of how it looks. Like, I would have never thought, because I do want more kids. Of course I do. I love being a mum. And before I would have been like, oh my god, you can't have 3 kids with 3 different men. And now I'm like, of course you can. Just because people did awful things to you doesn't mean you don't deserve what you want out of life. Like, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? People are probably going to write all their little comments about it. But just because things didn't work out the way you wanted and it was nothing to do with you, doesn't mean you then can't have what you want, i.e. more children or loads of different things. But yeah, don't stay or settle just because you feel like you're getting older. I feel like so many people settle because they feel like they're coming to this age, or even before they're actually with someone, they just settle for someone who isn't in their person, you know, like like, I do believe people have a person that you're just gonna connect with so well. And I think people settle for someone that's like, oh no, but I like him, and no, he's a nice person, and all this. But there's not, just because they're getting to a certain age. And I'm not saying you can't grow to love that person. You might not have a really nice relationship, but when you are worried about age, you're more likely to jump into something and how do I say this? You're more likely to jump into something and maybe not notice the red flags as much, or just tolerate things that you wouldn't want to tolerate, or just be more blindsided, like more blind when you're going into it, because you so want that happily ever after. And whereas before you may have like took more time to get to know someone, analyse someone, or really make sure that your morals and values were on the same page, you might let some things go or rush that a bit, and now you're with someone who isn't right for you because you were worried about your age. Do you know what I mean? I think it is sad that as society they can't believe that a woman's single by choice. Like, every woman must be dying to just meet a man and wait till he's ready to commit. And but there's so many women who, 1, don't want to be mums, 2, are so career driven, and 3, have just zero tolerance for anyone who's not gonna add to their lives. And I think that's not something to be embarrassed about. Like, being a single woman at 35 because you had high standards and all of that, or you just weren't interested in that, you wanted to see where your career went, or you wanted to travel, or all these other things. I just hate that we're made to feel like by 30 we should be married. You know, like going to dinner parties around the family, like, oh, are you with anyone yet then? Or, oh, when are you gonna get married? And it's just, it's only put on women, and that's what I think is not fair, because we're programmed to believe that we should have that from such a young age, and men aren't. So they grow up literally feeling free, and we feel like we're on a time limit. So yeah, just find someone right for you. If they're not right for you, it's really okay to start over. Don't stay in something just because you're getting to a certain age, or don't just get with someone because you're worried that you're running out of time. Like, you deserve so much more, and I think working on your self-love is so important before entering any relationship, so you know that you're truly going to get out of it what you deserve. And if they start acting any other type of way, you just cut them out and move on and go find better. So that's my little sector I love. And then last thing I'm going to say, which is kind of what I've touched on, is just to do with self-love and all of that, just really taking care of yourself. I think therapy, I think everyone should go to therapy. I think there's so much generational trauma that we may carry, things from childhood that you don't realise affect you so much in adult life. So many things, like, you don't have to have had the worst things in the world to happen to you to go to therapy, or you don't have to have a mental illness, i.e. OCD like myself, anxiety, depression, anorexia, all of that. You don't have to do that to go to therapy. In America, everyone has a therapist, and I think that is so amazing, and I think it just helps you get in a place where you're so happy in yourself, or fixing so many things that needed fixing, then you do the steps in life that are right for you. You don't just go to anyone to find love. You don't erratically buy a house because you're so concerned what other people are thinking. You don't stay in a job that you're depressed in because you feel like there's no way out. Just like from the inside, like the whole of you, learning to just love and respect yourself and not care what anyone thinks, and stop comparing yourself so much, or how to deal with them toxic thoughts, and just offload things every now and then is so important, especially for men. I think men talk a lot less than women, and just having someone to talk to who just is paid to sit there and listen, and you know, they're not judging you, it just feels so much better. So I hope this was a good video, guys. I do get really passionate about these kind of things, but I just really wanted to reinforce, like I said, from my conversations with my friends and myself, it's just so horrible to see how much we all put ourselves down so much, that we haven't achieved things by a certain age. I just think the world's a different place now. It's not like it was before, and a number doesn't define you and what you should have done. Everyone's life is so different. We've all had different paths, and you will get to where you need to be when you need to get there, and it will feel just as amazing at that time as it would have at the time you told yourself you should have achieved it by. If you guys like this video, or you want me to talk about anything else, let me know. I feel like I've just been like ranting and stuff, but I really don't want to come. I just want you all to live your best lives and stop worrying about everyone. So drop a like and a comment down below. Tell me what you guys thought of this video. Good vibes only, and I'll see you all in the next one, which will probably be my transformation one. Bye guys.